In terms of how I prepared my meat, I did a wet marinade. The wet was from orange juice, so I mixed my spices in orange juice. I also added a bit of apple cider vinegar just to give it a bit of tangy, and it helps with keeping it moist. That wet marinade also has a brining effect because they had salt, so that allows the spices to seep into the meat. We've also done a dry rub for some of the meat, so still again we kept some of the pork ribs that we've done a dry rub with. In terms of the preparation, I know most times for us we use the word roasting or grilling meat to mean a variety, to mean the same thing, but many times actually those are a variety of techniques. So most of what we've cooked today has been roasted and smoked, either roasted, smoked, which would be more or less the same thing, just depends on the temperature. Where we've used charcoal and used more or less charcoal ovens, the Cookswell one, that uses convection cooking. That allows the meat to cook slowly. So typically I would start it on high to sear the meat, which locks in the juices and keeps the meat tender. So even if I'm doing a whole leg of lamb, I would not have to cut into it. You let that cook slowly over time. But we've also had open grilling of some of the cuts, so they're slightly smaller. So for instance, when I did the liver, I did that on an open grill because you want that high and fast. When you're doing goat can be tricky. If it doesn't have sufficient fat, it can be tough and chewy. So trying to get good quality beef sometimes is a challenge. Chicken is a lot easier, and because most times it will pick the flavor. So especially if you're doing some of this broiler chicken, for me I find that having a good rub, marinade is important because the chicken itself is not as flavorful. I find dopa is very easy, so especially if you're buying it on the Kajiado side, Ngong, Kiserian, Matasia, they are very well fed in terms they eat good natural things, so the flavor profile would be good. In terms of my final reflections, as someone who got their love for barbecuing with my dad, that's something we did, and where you graduated from lighting the fire, being allowed to handle some of the meat, helping the preparation, to one day being the one who was fully in charge of the meat. One thing I would want us to do a lot more of is get more people cooking themselves. I know maybe when you see people like us who have been doing it, it's possible to think it's very difficult, but actually if you understand the heat, time and so on, it's not that difficult. So one, I wish more people can take up barbecuing. And it's for that reason that a number of us have come together, and every other quarter under the Barbecue Pitmasters Kenya, we are celebrating this art, this culture, this tradition of barbecuing, smoking, grilling meat, and trying to introduce that to as many Kenyans as possible. And we do it in an event where you can sit with your friends, they can come for the event, but they also participate. Because we really hope that we can perpetuate this thing. And with that, we can also learn how we did it here in Kenya, what kind of charcoal people used, and so on.